You were taught that control equals safety. That if you could just hold everything together, your job, your body, your relationships, your image, nothing would fall apart. But here's the truth. Everything is already falling apart. The people you try to please, they change. The plans you cling to, they rot. The body you micromanage, it decays. And yet, you keep tightening your grip. Because letting go feels like death. But it's not death that's destroying you. It's the illusion that you can avoid it. You were not born afraid of chaos. You were taught to fear what you cannot fix. Somewhere along the way, you learned to measure your worth by how much you could predict, control, and dominate. You became the planner, the perfectionist, the fixer, the one who never lets go. And so, you built walls, schedules, masks, defenses, rituals, not because they freed you, but because they gave you the feeling of control. But here's the paradox. The tighter you cling, the more life resists. The more you try to force outcomes, the more you bleed. The more you try to own reality, the more it owns you. Because control is a cage disguised as protection. And right now, you're suffocating inside it. You overanalyze every word before you speak it. You rehearse every possibility before you act. You replay every mistake 1,000 times before bed. And still, nothing gets better. Because life doesn't respond to your grip. It responds to your presence. But you've forgotten how to be present. You're too busy bracing for impact from disasters that haven't even happened. Your nervous system is locked in a simulation of threats. You scan for control the way a drowning man scans for air. And in the process, you've drowned out your own truth. You think, if I let go, everything will collapse. But what you don't realize is, everything that's not meant for you is collapsing anyway. You can micromanage your food, your calendar, your inbox, but you can't micromanage your soul. And deep down, you know it. Because no matter how much you try to orchestrate, regulate, and perfect, you still feel the ache. The ache that whispers, this isn't working. You don't need more control. You need to confront the part of you that's terrified to surrender. That's the part they never taught you to face. Because a person who no longer fears uncertainty can no longer be manipulated. You're not losing control. You're losing the illusion that control was ever real. And that is your first taste of freedom. Control looks clean from the outside. Disciplined, composed, respected. But peel back the surface and you'll find a life ruled by anxiety. Because control isn't about power, it's about fear. You think you're managing your environment, but in truth, your environment is managing you. You're a slave to routines that punish you, to standards that deplete you, to people who only love the version of you that never slips. You can't rest, because resting feels irresponsible. You can't slow down, because slowing down feels like failure. And so you keep grinding, fixing, calculating. You think if you can just anticipate everything, you won't be hurt again. But you're already hurt. You're just too numb to feel it. Control numbs pain, but it also numbs joy. It suppresses uncertainty, but it also suffocates growth. It avoids loss, but it also prevents love. You were not made to predict life. You were made to participate in it. But now, even the simplest moment feels like a test. A conversation becomes a negotiation. A decision becomes a war. A feeling becomes a threat. You don't let people close, not really. You study them, manage them, edit yourself for them. And if they pull away, you blame yourself. Or worse, you blame them, so you don't have to face your helplessness. Control gives you a script, a formula, a false sense of order in a world that will never be obeyed. You cling to that formula like a life raft, even though it's made of paper. You say yes when you want to say no. You hold back when your soul wants to scream. You stay in rooms that shrink you, just to avoid the terror of uncertainty. But here's what they didn't tell you. The more you avoid chaos, the more chaotic you become. The more you suppress reality, the more reality turns against you. You start waking up tired. You start forgetting who you are. You start resenting the life you built. Because deep down, it was built to please a fear, not a truth. You don't need more boundaries. You don't need more control. You need the courage to feel, to grieve, to lose, to let go. Because only in space after control breaks does life begin to speak. It doesn't scream like fear. It doesn't nag like shame. It whispers, and it's whispering to you now. Stop managing. Start listening. Because life doesn't want to be managed. It wants to be met. And the moment you stop clinging is the moment you finally make contact. They told you control would keep you safe. But safe from what? From pain? From uncertainty? From the truth? No. What control actually shields you from is your own transformation. Because real transformation requires risk. It requires surrender. It requires letting go of the version of you that was built for survival. But control won't allow that. Control wants guarantees. It wants perfect timing. It wants certainty in a world that breathes chaos. And so you bargain with life. You negotiate your joy in exchange for predictability. You trade your freedom for a feeling of protection. You sacrifice your growth to avoid being unprepared. But that feeling is just that, a feeling, not a fact. The truth, control, doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you small. It tells you to keep the peace, even if it costs you your truth. It tells you to settle, just so you don't risk rejection. It tells you to wait until the fear goes away. But fear never goes away, not completely. And safety? It's not a location. It's not a plan. It's not the absence of risk. It's presence. It's the ability to stand in uncertainty and not abandon yourself, to feel afraid and not collapse, to face loss and still open your heart. But you've confused numbness with peace, avoidance with strategy, suppression with strength. You think you're being careful, but you're actually being caged. You've built a life where nothing unexpected can happen. But here's the tragedy. If nothing unexpected can happen, neither can anything miraculous. Because miracles don't happen in control. They happen in chaos, in surrender, in flow. You weren't meant to feel safe all the time. You were meant to feel alive. And aliveness isn't neat. It isn't controlled. It isn't measured in routines and spreadsheets and rehearsals. It's messy. It's wild. It's real. But you've been taught to fear the real. Because if you were allowed to feel freely, love freely, break freely, you'd no longer be manageable. You wouldn't need the systems. You wouldn't need the masks. You wouldn't need the cage. And so they sold you safety to keep you afraid of freedom. But here's the paradox. Safety isn't found in control. Safety is found in trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in life. Trust that even when things fall apart, you will not. Not because you forced everything into place, but because you finally learned how to let it go. Control doesn't just limit your life, it fractures your identity. Because every time you choose control over truth, you abandon a piece of yourself. The laugh you suppress, the tear you swallow, the truth you bury to keep things stable. That's self-betrayal. But you call it maturity, you call it responsibility, you call it being put together, but really you're just performing safety, polishing the cage, smiling from behind the bars. You've convinced yourself that if you can just be agreeable enough, precise enough, invisible enough, you'll be safe. But here's what you don't realize. Every time you shrink yourself to keep control, you teach your nervous system that your truth is dangerous. That joy must be muted. That pain must be hidden. That desire must be justified. So you don't speak up, you don't fall apart, you don't ask for more. And over time, you become unrecognizable to yourself. You wake up one day and realize you're not living. You're maintaining a persona, maintaining a routine, maintaining a life that doesn't fit anymore. Because control demands maintenance, not aliveness. And maintenance becomes a full-time job. You control how you dress, how you move, how you express emotion. how much of yourself you allow into a room. And then you wonder why you feel empty. Why does your joy feel artificial? Why does no one seem to really know you? It's because they don't. They know your mask. They know your manager. They know your control. But the real you, that version has been starved. And here's the cost. Every time you betray your authenticity to maintain control, you trade truth for approval. You trade aliveness for performance. You trade connection for image. And slowly you become the shell they can tolerate, instead of the soul you were born to be. But the shell is cracking. It always does. Because the soul does not die quietly. It revolts. It whispers in your insomnia. It aches in your chest. It screams in the stillness between distractions. It doesn't want your perfection. It wants your presence. And you will never reclaim that presence until you stop betraying your truth for control. Because the control you think is keeping you safe is killing the most vital parts of you. You've tried everything. The routines, the vision boards, the mental rehearsals, the perfectly timed responses, the calculated risks. And still, life breaks your script. People leave, plans unravel, the body rebels, the soul protests. Because life is not a machine. It's not waiting for your permission. It's not following your to-do list. It is wild. It is sacred. And it cannot be tamed. But what if that's not the enemy? What if that's the invitation, not to dominate life, but to join it? Not to master every outcome, but to learn how to respond from truth. Not to shield yourself from chaos, but to find peace within it. This is the surrender they never taught you. Because surrender is not giving up. It's giving in to what's real. It's choosing to feel the moment fully without a buffer of prediction, without a weapon of overthinking, without a mask of control. It's letting your shoulders drop, even when you don't know what's next. It's telling the truth, even when it might shatter the relationship. It's crying when you're tired of pretending to be strong. It's saying, "I don't know," and meaning it. Because not knowing is sacred. It makes you soft. It makes you human. It makes you available to the miracle of now. And here's the miracle. When you stop resisting life, life stops resisting you. You stop attracting chaos that matches your inner war. You stop creating tension just to maintain your image. You stop trying to bend reality into a shape your fear can accept. Instead, you breathe, you feel, you move with, not against. You become less controlled and more alive, less polished and more powerful, less strategic and truer. Surrender isn't the end of control. It's the beginning of connection. Connection to your body, connection to your grief, connection to your joy, connection to everything you keep outside the walls you built to feel safe. And now, those walls can come down, brick by brick, fear by fear. Because the life you're trying so hard to manage is waiting to meet you. Not the controlled you, not the planned you, not the perfect you, but the real you, the one that doesn't have it all figured out, the one that's messy and scared and honest, the one that knows there is more peace in surrender than there ever was in control. Something inside you is dying, but it's not your strength. It's not your will. It's not your worth. It's your control. And it needs to die. Because it was never meant to carry you this far. It was a raft, not a home. A coping mechanism, not a destiny. Control got you through childhood. It got you through trauma. It helped you survive. But survival is not the same as living. And now you are being called to something higher. Not a new plan, not a better system, not another mask of confidence, but a death, a letting go. A funeral for the version of you that believed they had to manage everything, just to be loved, just to be enough, just to be safe. Let them die. Let the control freak die. Let the perfectionist die. Let the strategist, the overthinker, the one who never rests, die. Not because they were evil, but because they were exhausted. Because they were trying to do the job of your soul. And now your soul is ready to return. Not as a brand, not as a persona, not as a projection, but as you. Unfiltered, unpolished, uncontrolled. You will still feel fear. You will still feel pain. But they will no longer own you, because they will no longer define you. You will speak more slowly. You will love more honestly. You will choose more freely. You will let go more easily. Because you will know, control is not safety. Control is a story you outgrew. And the more you let it die, the more alive you become. So grieve it, honor it, then bury it. And from its grave, let something wild and whole and real be born. Let the truth move through you. Let the unknown open you. Let life shape you, not as a weapon, but as a work of art. You are not here to manage reality. You are here to meet it. You are not here to be untouchable. You are here to be transformed. And it starts now, not with control, but with surrender. Let go. Let die. Let live.